Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here. Today, we'll be discussing environmental issues. This is a critical topic that affects us all. Over the next few slides, we'll explore the key challenges our environment faces and what we can do about them. Let's get started. Thank you for staying with me. Now, moving on to the final slide, slide 28, which simply says, thank you. I want to take this moment to sincerely thank all of you for your attention and engagement throughout this presentation. Your interest in these environmental topics is truly appreciated. Remember, the issues we've discussed today, ranging from pollution control to global warming and sustainable practices, are critical for our future. I encourage you all to take what you've learned here and apply it in your own lives and communities. Every small action counts when it comes to protecting our environment. Once again, thank you so much for your time and participation. Pollution can take many forms, including radiation pollution, soil pollution, water pollution, and air pollution. Each of these types affects our environment in different ways and has its own causes and consequences. When we talk about pollution, we're referring to any undesirable change in the environment's physical, chemical, or biological properties. These changes can be harmful to plants, animals, and humans alike. The factors that cause pollution are known as pollutants. These are substances or energies that disturb the natural balance of our environment. Understanding what pollutants are and how they impact different environmental components is key to grasping the overall issue of pollution. So, in essence, pollution is any unwanted change, and the sources, these pollutants, are what we need to manage to protect our environment. This slide highlights the main types of pollution, reminding us of the importance of addressing each one to preserve the health of our planet. Let's talk about air pollution. Essentially, any undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological properties of air is what we call air pollution. These changes can have serious impacts on health and the environment. The key pollutants to remember are oxides of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of carbon, as well as smoke, smog, and ozone. Each of these plays a significant role in deteriorating air quality. Understanding these pollutants helps us see why controlling air pollution is so crucial for our well-being and the health of our planet. Let's take a closer look at some of the key causes of air pollution. First, the use of petrol and coal in industries, along with cigarette smoking, significantly contribute to the problem. These activities release harmful chemicals into the air that affect our health and the environment. Additionally, improper disposal of domestic and industrial wastes releases methane, a potent greenhouse gas that worsens pollution and climate change. Another major cause is the use of vehicles. Vehicles emit a variety of harmful gases, such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. These emissions are among the primary sources of urban air pollution, affecting everyone who breathes in polluted air. Understanding these causes helps us see how everyday activities and industrial processes are interconnected with air quality. It underscores the importance of adopting cleaner practices and reducing pollution at the source to protect our environment and our health. Today, I want to talk about smog, which is a mixture of various air pollutants like arsenic, lead, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and others. When these pollutants combine with dust and fog, they create what we call smog. It's important to understand that smog is not just an inconvenience, it can be deadly to our health. This deadly mixture affects our bodies in several ways. For example, it causes the deposition of dry mucus in the alveoli, the tiny air sacs in our lungs where oxygen exchange happens. This can lead to serious health problems like tuberculosis and lung cancer. Moreover, prolonged exposure to smog can accelerate the aging process and even lead to premature death. Recognizing the dangers of smog highlights the importance of controlling air pollution for our health and well-being. It ties back to our overall theme of understanding environmental impacts on our health and the urgent need for action. Studies show that living in big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Kolkata, and many others is actually equivalent to smoking about 20 cigarettes a day. It's a startling fact, But what's even more concerning is that this problem is growing rapidly. Urban living exposes us to high levels of air pollution, which impacts our health just as much as smoking does. This highlights the urgent need for us to pay attention to air quality and take steps to protect ourselves. It ties into our overall theme of understanding environmental impacts on health and finding ways to improve our living conditions. Let's talk about the effects of air pollution, starting with photochemical smog. This type of smog is formed through a photochemical reaction involving oxides of nitrogen and hydrocarbons at lower levels of the atmosphere. When sunlight interacts with these pollutants, it creates ozone, which is a major component of photochemical smog. Now, this ozone isn't the good kind that protects us in the upper atmosphere. Instead, it can cause harm when it's closer to the ground. Moving on, oxides of carbon, like carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, are also significant because they contribute to greenhouse effects. These gases trap heat in the atmosphere, leading to global warming and climate change. For humans, oxides of sulfur and nitrogen are particularly problematic. They can cause eye and nasal irritation, chronic cough, and even bronchitis over time. These symptoms highlight how air pollution directly impacts our health. But the damage isn't limited to humans. Photochemical smog can also destroy plant vegetation, impairing growth and reducing agricultural productivity. Plus, oxides of sulfur and nitrogen react with rainwater, leading to acid rain, which can harm aquatic life, soil, and plant life. Furthermore, these oxides cause chlorosis, which is a yellowing of leaves, and defoliation, meaning leaves fall off prematurely. This weakens plants and reduces their ability to photosynthesize effectively. In summary, air pollution has a wide range of harmful effects, from health issues in humans to environmental damage. So understanding and controlling these pollutants is crucial for protecting both our health and our planet. So this slide is about an important method called the electrostatic precipitator, which plays a crucial role in controlling air pollution from thermal power plants. What it does is remove about 90% of the particulate matter, those tiny dust particles, present in the exhaust gases. This is a significant reduction and helps improve air quality. The device works using electrode wires and a stage of collecting plates. The electrode wires release electrons into the exhaust stream. These electrons then attach themselves to the dust particles, giving them a net negative charge. Think of it as charging the dust particles so they become attracted to a positive or grounded surface. That's where the collecting plates come in. Since the dust particles are now negatively charged, they are naturally attracted to the positively charged or grounded collecting plates. This way, the dust is captured and removed from the exhaust gases before they are released into the atmosphere. So, in essence, the electrostatic precipitator uses electrical forces to efficiently clean the emissions from thermal plants, making a big difference in reducing air pollution and protecting our environment. It's a clever and effective technology that underpins our efforts to control pollution from major industrial sources. Now, let's talk about how we control gases like sulfur dioxide from industrial exhaust. This is where the scrubber comes into play. Essentially, it's a device designed to remove gaseous pollutants such as sulfur dioxide from the emissions. The process involves passing the exhaust gases through a spray of water and lime. When these come into contact with sulfur dioxide, a chemical reaction occurs, forming a precipitate. This not only reduces harmful gases released into the atmosphere, but also helps in managing air pollution more effectively. So, the scrubber is a crucial tool in our overall effort to minimize industrial air pollution and protect environmental health. Let's talk about catalytic converters and their role in controlling air pollution. These devices are used in automobiles to significantly reduce the emission of harmful gases. Inside the catalytic converter, metals like rhodium, platinum, and palladium act as catalysts, meaning they help speed up chemical reactions that convert toxic gases into less harmful substances. It's important to note that vehicles equipped with catalytic converters should use unleaded petrol. Why? Because leaded petrol contains lead, which inactivates the catalyst and makes it ineffective. So, for the catalytic converter to do its job properly, we need to use unleaded fuel. Overall, catalytic converters are a crucial technology in our efforts to make transportation cleaner and reduce air pollution. They turn harmful emissions into safer compounds, helping us protect the environment and public health. Carbon credits are considered one of the most effective ways to reduce our overall carbon footprint. Essentially, these credits can be sold to companies or individuals for cash, and at the same time, they help in reducing CO2 emissions. This creates a financial incentive for everyone to lower their emissions. Another important point is upgrading industries, factories, and aircraft with more efficient engines and turbines. These upgrades can significantly cut down the amount of CO2 and other pollutants they produce, making a big difference in our overall emissions. We also see the use of technologies like electrostatic precipitators, baghouses, and particulate scrubbers. These tools help capture harmful particles and pollutants before they reach the atmosphere, improving air quality and reducing warming. Switching to hydrogen power for cars and machinery, or adopting hybrid vehicles, is another effective strategy. Hydrogen engines emit only water vapor, which makes them a cleaner alternative to traditional fossil fuels. Renewable energy sources like wind, water, solar, infrared, geothermal, and tidal power are crucial. They provide sustainable energy options that don't produce CO2, helping us transition away from fossil fuels. Magnetic trains are also an innovative way to reduce pollution. They are energy efficient and produce less noise, making them a greener transportation option. Planting trees across towns or growing more plants in our homes can absorb CO2 from the air, acting as natural carbon sinks. This is a simple yet powerful way to help combat climate change. Finally, reducing the use of vehicles for short trips and carpooling can greatly cut down on emissions. Every little effort counts when we're working toward a cleaner, healthier planet. All these strategies together form a comprehensive approach to helping reduce air pollution and global warming, aligning perfectly with our overall goal of creating a sustainable future. Let's take a closer look at some key environmental laws aimed at controlling air pollution around the world. Starting with Austria, in 1994, they introduced the Environmental Promotion Act and the Environmental Compatibility Act. These laws focus on promoting environmentally friendly practices and ensuring that projects are compatible with environmental standards. Moving over to the United States, the Air Pollution Control Act of 1955 laid the groundwork for air quality management, which was then followed by the more comprehensive Clean Air Acts of 1963, 1970, and 1990. These acts progressively strengthened regulations to reduce emissions and protect public health. In India, the Air Act of 1981 and the Environment Act of 1986 established legal frameworks for air quality management and environmental protection, emphasizing the need for stricter control measures. Lastly, the United Kingdom has its own history with significant legislation, starting with the Environment Protection Act of 1990 and the Environment Act of 1995, along with the British Clean Air Act of 1956, which was one of the earliest efforts to combat air pollution. These laws collectively highlight the global effort to regulate and reduce air pollution, reinforcing the importance of legal frameworks in safeguarding our environment. Starting from April 1, 2010, the Euro IV norms were implemented for vehicles, marking a significant step towards cleaner transportation. These norms set strict limits on emissions, encouraging the use of more environmentally friendly vehicle technologies. Additionally, there was a shift towards using unleaded petrol and low-sulfur petrol and diesel. This change is crucial because it reduces harmful emissions like sulfur dioxide and lead, which are major pollutants. Another important measure was the widespread adoption of catalytic converters in vehicles. These devices help convert toxic gases into less harmful substances before they are released into the atmosphere, further reducing vehicular pollution. we also saw a phase-out of older, more polluting vehicles. Phasing out outdated vehicles ensures that the fleet on the roads is cleaner and more efficient, contributing significantly to better air quality. In Delhi specifically, all buses were converted to run on CNG by the end of 2002. This transition to compressed natural gas drastically cut down emissions from public transportation. Overall, these steps, adopting Euro IV norms, switching to cleaner fuels, installing catalytic converters, phasing out old vehicles, and converting buses to CNG, all form a comprehensive strategy to control vehicular air pollution in Delhi. They highlight the importance of continuous policy and technological upgrades in our fight against air pollution. Water pollution refers to any undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological properties of water that makes it unsafe or unsuitable for use. It's important to understand that pollution doesn't just affect the water's clarity, but can also harm aquatic life and even impact human health. Some of the main pollutants we need to watch out for include sewage waste, which often contains harmful bacteria and pathogens, industrial waste that can introduce toxic chemicals, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides. These substances can seep into water bodies, disrupting ecosystems and polluting drinking water sources. Recognizing these pollutants is crucial because it helps us understand the causes of water pollution and highlights the importance of controlling and reducing these harmful substances to protect our water resources. This connects directly to our overall goal of promoting environmental health and sustainable practices. Let's start by considering how industrial waste impacts aquatic life. When heavy metals and chemicals are released into water, they can be incredibly toxic to aquatic organisms, often leading to their death or severe health issues. This kind of pollution disrupts entire ecosystems and reduces biodiversity in our water bodies. Next, we see how nutrient enrichment, mainly from agricultural runoff and sewage, causes eutrophication. This process leads to explosive algae growth, or algal blooms, which can block sunlight from reaching underwater plants. As a result, oxygen levels drop significantly, increasing the biological oxygen demand, or BOD, which stresses or kills marine life that depends on oxygen to survive. Now let's talk about mercury, a dangerous heavy metal that can enter our bodies through contaminated seafood. Once mercury is in the food chain, it accumulates and causes Minamata disease, a serious neurological disorder. This highlights how water pollution doesn't just affect aquatic organisms, but also poses direct health risks to humans. Moving on to pesticides, these chemicals often find their way into water resources through runoff. They tend to biomagnify, meaning their concentrations increase as they move up the food chain. This can have devastating effects on top predators, including humans, and disrupt the balance of ecosystems. Finally, the direct release of sewage into water sources promotes the growth of pathogenic microbes. These microbes can cause waterborne diseases such as cholera, dysentery, and typhoid, which pose serious health threats to communities relying on these water sources. All these points remind us that water pollution severely threatens biodiversity, disrupting ecosystems and endangering both aquatic and human life. Protecting our water resources is crucial to maintaining healthy, resilient ecosystems for the future. Eutrophication is a process where water bodies become enriched with nutrients, typically from human activities like agriculture and sewage discharge. This nutrient overload causes a cascade of environmental changes. One of the most visible effects is the occurrence of algal blooms, which can cover the entire surface of a lake or pond. These blooms are not just unsightly, they also release toxins that can be harmful to aquatic life and even to humans. As these algae die and decompose, they consume a lot of oxygen in the water, leading to oxygen deficiency. This hypoxic condition makes it difficult for aquatic animals, especially fishes, to survive, often resulting in large fish kills. Overall, eutrophication disrupts the balance of aquatic ecosystems and highlights the importance of managing nutrient pollution to preserve biodiversity and water quality. Eutrophication is a natural process where a lake gradually ages and turns into land, and this can take thousands of years or even longer. However, human activities have significantly sped up this process, causing many lakes to become extinct much faster than they normally would. This acceleration is mainly due to the dumping of nutrient-rich waste and thermal pollution into lakes. When we introduce excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, it leads to an overgrowth of algae, which depletes oxygen in the water and kills off aquatic life. This not only destroys biodiversity around these water bodies, but also contributes to broader issues like accelerated global warming. The loss of lakes and aquatic ecosystems means the extinction of countless species and disrupts the balance of our environment. So, in a way, human actions are pushing natural processes to a breaking point, with serious consequences for our planet's health. Now, let's talk about the harmful effects of algal blooms. First, they can be toxic to both animals and human beings, posing serious health risks. When these blooms occur, we often see a deterioration of water quality, making the water unsafe for drinking, recreation, and aquatic life. One of the most visible signs is fish mortality, where large numbers of fish die off because their environment becomes uninhabitable. At the core of this issue is the excessive growth of planktonic algae on the surface of water bodies. This unchecked growth creates a thick layer that blocks sunlight and disrupts the natural balance of the ecosystem. The harmful effects of these blooms are numerous, including the production of toxins that can affect the nervous system or liver of aquatic life and humans alike. Overall, algal blooms are a clear indicator of nutrient pollution, often from agricultural runoff or wastewater discharge, and they highlight the urgent need for better water management practices. Recognizing these impacts allows us to understand the broader environmental and health implications and emphasizes why controlling nutrient input is so critical. Now, let's talk about biomagnification. This is a process where non-degradable chemicals and heavy metals accumulate in human beings through the food chain. Essentially, these harmful substances become more concentrated as they move from one level of the food chain to the next. For example, small organisms might absorb pollutants, which are then eaten by larger creatures, and so on, eventually reaching us. This buildup can have serious health implications. It's important to understand that biomagnification highlights how environmental pollution can directly impact human health, emphasizing the need for careful management of pollutants. This concept ties into our overall discussion about the importance of environmental protection and sustainable practices to safeguard our well-being. Now, let's take a closer look at some of the harmful effects of DDT. When there's a high concentration of DDT in the environment, it can really disrupt calcium metabolism in birds. This disruption leads to the formation of thinner eggshells, which are more prone to breaking prematurely. As a result, bird populations start to decline because fewer chicks hatch successfully. But the impact of DDT isn't limited to birds. It also reduces fat levels in animals, acting as an endocrine disruptor, meaning it interferes with hormone systems. This can cause a range of health problems, including an increased risk of cancer, developmental issues, and reproductive toxicity. Moreover, DDT exposure has been linked to serious conditions, such as Parkinson's disease and asthma. So, as we see, DDT's harmful effects are quite broad, affecting wildlife and human health alike. This really underscores the importance of understanding and managing the risks associated with persistent environmental pollutants like DDT. Let's talk about BOD, which stands for biological oxygen demand. Essentially, it tells us the amount of oxygen that would be used up if all the organic matter in 1 liter of water were to be oxidized by bacteria. The BOD test measures how quickly microorganisms in the water consume oxygen, giving us an indirect way to assess how much organic material is present. The key idea here is that a higher BOD indicates more organic matter, which often means the water is more polluted. Conversely, lower BOD values are typical of cleaner, drinking water. So, understanding BOD helps us gauge the pollution level and the potential impact of wastewater on our environment. In the bigger picture of water quality management, Monitoring BOD is crucial because it helps us determine how much oxygen is being depleted in water bodies, which directly affects aquatic life. The more polluted the water, the higher the BOD, and that signals a need for better treatment and pollution control measures. Water hyacinth is actually used to control and remove several pollutants from water bodies. Specifically, it helps in filtering out BOD, suspended solids, nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen, heavy metals, and organochlorides. These contaminants often come from mineral, industrial, and chemical wastes that pollute our water sources. What's fascinating is that water hyacinth naturally extracts nutrients, which makes it a sustainable option and improves treatment efficiency. But there's a catch. If these plants grow unchecked, they can spread rapidly across water bodies, causing more problems. In India, we even call it the terror of Bengal because of how invasive it can be. Controlling water pollution is crucial because polluted water leads to serious health issues, diseases like jaundice, cholera, typhoid, dysentery, dengue, and malaria. Many of these illnesses are very difficult to treat, so prevention and control are key. So, while water hyacinth can be a useful tool in water treatment, managing its growth is essential to prevent it from becoming an invasive threat and to protect public health. Let's talk about some effective preventive measures to reduce water pollution. First, dry composting toilets are a great option because they don't require water. Plus, the human waste collected can be converted into natural fertilizer, which is beneficial for the soil. Next, rainwater harvesting is an excellent way to conserve water and minimize wastage of our precious fresh water resources. By capturing rainwater, we can reduce the strain on existing water supplies. Another important measure is the mild treatment of domestic wastewater. Treated wastewater can be safely used for irrigation, helping us make the most of our water resources without harming the environment. It's also crucial to prevent the use of rivers for religious ceremonies or other activities that might pollute them. Protecting our rivers from such pollution is vital for maintaining their health. Planting trees plays a significant role too. Trees help reduce acid rain and prevent groundwater pollution by acting as natural filters and stabilizers within the ecosystem. Finally, before dumping wastewater into rivers or lakes, it must be properly treated. This step is essential to prevent contamination and ensure that our water bodies remain clean and safe for everyone. Together, these measures form a comprehensive approach to safeguarding our water resources and maintaining ecological balance. Now, moving on to some important international agreements and actions taken by governments to reduce water pollution. First, we have the Agricultural Nitrates Directive in the UK, which is designed to minimize nitrate pollution from agricultural sources, helping to protect water quality. Then, there's the International Convention on Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response, and Cooperation from 1990, which focuses on ensuring countries are ready to respond effectively to oil spills and prevent marine pollution. Next, we have the International Convention on Liability and Compensation for Damage related to the carriage of hazardous and noxious substances by sea, also known as the HNS Convention, which India has adopted through the Water Act of 1974. This convention holds parties accountable for damages caused by hazardous substances transported by sea. Finally, the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, originally from 1973 and modified in 1978, sets standards to prevent pollution from ships and promotes cleaner maritime practices. All these actions highlight how governments are actively working on multiple fronts, regulatory, legal, and operational, to protect our water bodies from pollution and ensure safer, healthier environments. Over the years, the use of agrochemicals has increased considerably. Most crops are treated with pesticides, inorganic fertilizers, insecticides, and other chemicals to boost crop yields. While this might seem beneficial for producing more food, it also leads to serious environmental and health issues. For example, biomagnification occurs when these chemicals accumulate as they move up the food chain, becoming more concentrated and potentially more harmful. Eutrophication is another problem, where excess nutrients from these chemicals cause overgrowth of algae in water bodies, disrupting ecosystems. Moreover, not all insects, rodents, and microorganisms are targeted by these chemicals. Many useful ones are also killed, which can disturb the natural balance of our ecosystems. These chemicals often seep into the ground, contaminating the soil and groundwater, which can pose serious health risks like cancer. They can also affect human development, especially in children, by inhibiting brain and body development. This highlights the importance of understanding the hidden costs of agrochemical use and encourages us to think about safer, more sustainable farming practices that protect both our health and our environment. Growing more than one crop in a given farmland per year not only provides variety, but also helps replenish nutrients in the soil. This practice, known as crop rotation, is essential for maintaining soil health and reducing the need for chemical fertilizers. Next, let's talk about the use of ladybugs and worms. Ladybugs are natural pest controllers that help protect crops against smaller insects, while worms play a crucial role in aerating the soil, which improves water retention and nutrient absorption. Placing guard dogs, such as German shepherds, is another effective strategy. These dogs help protect the farmlands from animals like rabbits and wild cattle that can cause significant damage to crops. Planting tree belts around crop fields is also vital. These belts act as windbreaks, shielding crops from strong winds and heavy rains, which can otherwise cause erosion or physical damage. Finally, beekeeping can be a game changer. Placing a hive in the center of a crop field drastically increases crop yields because bees are excellent pollinators. Plus, they produce honey and beeswax that can be sold for profit. Interestingly, bees also help keep elephants away, as elephants are afraid of bees, adding an extra layer of protection to the farm. All these strategies are part of smart farming practices that reduce reliance on agrochemicals, promoting sustainable and environmentally friendly agriculture. Now, let's talk about the waste produced from nuclear fission, which involves heavy atoms like uranium and thorium used for power generation. This waste is radioactive and highly toxic, which means it can cause serious health issues such as mutations and cancers if not handled properly. Because of its dangerous nature, nuclear waste requires heavy treatment and must be stored carefully. Typically, it is packed in special containers designed to contain radioactivity effectively. To ensure safety, these containers are buried deep underground, usually for at least 60 to 80 years, allowing the waste to stabilize over time. However, even after this long period, there's still a significant risk of nuclear contamination spreading to surrounding areas and groundwater. This highlights how challenging and risky nuclear waste management can be. Additionally, it's important to remember that failure of nuclear power plants can lead to disastrous consequences, impacting large populations and ecosystems. Given these risks, it's generally advisable to avoid using nuclear fuels whenever possible. The potential hazards are just too great, and safer, more sustainable energy sources should be prioritized to protect our environment and public health. Now, moving on to some of the major global issues concerning the environment, we see that biodiversity depletion and ecological imbalance are at the forefront. These are challenges that are discussed on an international level because their impact crosses borders and affects the entire planet. Next, let's look at some specific environmental threats. First, nuclear winter, which is a severe and global climatic effect that could follow a large-scale nuclear conflict. Then, acid rain formation, which results from pollutants like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides mixing with water in the atmosphere, leading to harmful precipitation that damages ecosystems and structures. Ozone depletion is another critical issue. It involves the thinning of the ozone layer, which protects us from harmful ultraviolet rays. Without this shield, our environment and health are at increased risk. And finally, we have global warming, the rise in Earth's average temperature caused mainly by greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. This leads to melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and more extreme weather events. All these issues are interconnected and highlight the urgent need for global cooperation and sustainable practices to protect our planet for future generations. Sure, here's the word-by-word narrative script for slide 30. Global warming refers to the heating up of the Earth due to the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is caused when gases such as carbon dioxide, or CO2, and methane, or CH4, increase in the atmosphere. This increase leads to the heating up of the Earth because these gases are good absorbers of heat. They trap heat in the atmosphere, preventing excess warmth from escaping back into space. As a result, this process causes the overall temperature of our planet to rise. Understanding this mechanism is crucial because it connects directly to the broader issue of climate change and environmental impact that we've been discussing throughout this presentation. Let's take a closer look at the effects of global warming. First, the destruction of underwater cities, like coral reefs and meadows, leads to the extinction of many marine species. These ecosystems are vital for biodiversity and healthy oceans. When they vanish, it affects the entire marine food chain. Next, the rising sea levels are causing flooding in countries such as Bangladesh and the Maldives. This isn't just about inconvenience. It threatens millions of lives and displaces entire communities. Rising seas are a clear sign of how climate change directly impacts human populations. Interestingly, in colder regions, global warming can bring some relief, making winters milder and increasing agricultural productivity. However, in many other parts of the world, the effects are quite negative. Droughts, heat waves, and extreme weather events become more frequent and severe. Another critical point is the impact on our resources. Global warming causes shortages of food and water, which are essential for human survival. As droughts and unpredictable weather patterns disrupt agriculture and water supplies, these shortages become more acute. Finally, the Arctic polar ice cap is melting at a staggering rate of about 9% per decade. This melting contributes significantly to sea level rise and also threatens Arctic ecosystems and indigenous communities. All of these effects underscore how interconnected and far-reaching the impact of global warming truly is. Using natural resources like wind energy, solar energy, and wave energy can play a significant role in helping us overcome global warming. These renewable sources are clean and sustainable, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels that emit harmful greenhouse gases. Improving the efficiency of engines and turbines is another crucial step. When we make these systems more efficient, we can drastically cut down on pollution and energy waste, which directly impacts the overall climate. Preventing deforestation is also vital. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, so protecting forests helps keep carbon levels in check. Additionally, planting hundreds of trees across cities and in our homes can make a noticeable difference. Trees act as natural air filters and carbon sinks, supporting our efforts to combat global warming. Reducing our dependence on fossil fuels by cutting down their burning can significantly minimize greenhouse gas emissions. Every bit helps in slowing down climate change. Reforestation, the process of planting trees where there were once forests, is especially effective. It helps replace the excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with oxygen, which benefits both the environment and our health. Overall, these control measures, using renewable energy, improving efficiency, preventing deforestation, planting trees, and reducing fossil fuel use, are interconnected strategies that support our fight against global warming. They remind us that small, consistent actions can lead to meaningful change for our planet. Ozone is formed in the stratosphere when UV rays from the sun interact with oxygen molecules, O2. This process creates ozone, which plays a crucial role in protecting us from harmful ultraviolet radiation. The thickness of this ozone layer is measured in Dobson units, which give us an idea of how much ozone is present in a specific area. When we talk about depletion of the ozone layer, we're referring to the thinning or reduction of this ozone, often caused by human-made chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons. This depletion is a serious concern because it allows more UV radiation to reach the Earth's surface, leading to health and environmental issues. Understanding how ozone is formed and the importance of maintaining its balance helps us appreciate the impact of our actions on the atmosphere and the need for protective measures. Let's start by looking at some of the practical uses of ultraviolet light. UVC, which has a short wavelength, is widely used as a germicidal agent in laboratories and for water treatment. It's effective at killing bacteria and viruses. However, it's important to remember that UVC can be harmful to us because it causes DNA damage, leading to mutations. This damage is also linked to skin aging and skin cancer, so safety precautions are essential when working with it. Moving on to UVB, which has a medium wavelength. Under normal conditions, UVB is absorbed by the ozone layer, acting as a natural shield. But if we're exposed to it directly, it can cause a range of health issues like snow blindness, cataracts, inflammation of the cornea, and again, skin aging and cancer. This highlights the importance of protecting ourselves from excessive UVB exposure. Now, UVA, which has a longer wavelength, is often called black light. It's commonly used in tanning beds and even in some security features, like checking for counterfeit money. UVA is less energetic but can still penetrate deep into the skin, contributing to aging and skin damage over time. Let's take a moment to understand the bigger picture. There are about 10 types of UV rays, but UVA, UVB, and UVC are the most common. Each has different effects and uses, but they're all part of the electromagnetic spectrum that impacts our environment and health. This brings us to the issue of ozone depletion, which is closely linked to human activities, especially the use of chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. These chemicals react with UV radiation, releasing chlorine atoms that act as catalysts to break down ozone into oxygen. This process is particularly problematic because these CFCs can travel from the lower atmosphere up to the South Pole, causing significant ozone thinning over Antarctica. The depletion of the ozone layer poses serious risks, including increased UV exposure, which leads to the health issues we discussed earlier. Recognizing these dangers, the international community took action with the Montreal Protocol in 1987, which came into effect in 1989. This treaty was a significant step in controlling and reducing CFC emissions worldwide, aiming to protect our ozone layer and, ultimately, our health. Nuclear winter is a hypothetical climatic condition that could occur on Earth as a result of a nuclear war. Essentially, if a large-scale nuclear conflict were to happen, the resulting fires and explosions would send vast amounts of soot and debris into the atmosphere. This layer of particles would block sunlight, leading to significant cooling of the planet's surface. The most important concept here is that nuclear winter isn't just about immediate destruction. It could cause long-term environmental changes that might drastically affect life on Earth. Connecting this to the overall theme of the presentation, it highlights how the consequences of nuclear conflict extend far beyond the initial blast, emphasizing the need for prevention and global peace efforts. As we look at this slide, let's talk about what a nuclear winter really entails. It develops black clouds that block sunlight from reaching the Earth's surface. This isn't just a visual effect, it has serious consequences. The lack of sunlight leads to semi-darkness and freezing temperatures, which directly impacts photosynthesis, the process plants use to produce energy. Without enough sunlight, vegetation starts to die off, disrupting entire ecosystems. At the same time, these dark clouds generate enormous amounts of smoke and dust that fill the atmosphere. This thick haze further cools the planet, leading to a significant drop in surface temperatures, sometimes to freezing points. This cold, dark environment makes survival exceedingly difficult for both humans and wildlife. Additionally, the nuclear explosions themselves set off firestorms across cities and forests. These fires add even more smoke and debris into the atmosphere, intensifying the cooling effect. All of these effects, cloud cover, cold temperatures, and widespread fires, combine to create what we call a nuclear winter. It's a stark reminder of how devastating nuclear conflict could be, not just in terms of immediate destruction, but also in the long-term impacts on our climate and life on Earth. This underscores the importance of preventing such conflicts and understanding these potential consequences. Chlorofluorocarbons are commonly known as freons. These are a group of chemicals that were widely used in refrigeration, air conditioning, and aerosol sprays. The term freons actually refers to specific types of CFCs, which are chlorofluorocarbons. They became popular because they are stable, non-toxic, and non-flammable, making them ideal for everyday use. However, it's important to understand that while freons were considered safe for humans and the environment initially, we later discovered they have harmful effects on the ozone layer. This connection highlights the importance of understanding chemical impacts on our planet and the need to find safer alternatives. So, in the broader context of our presentation, recognizing what freons are helps us appreciate both the technological advances and the environmental challenges associated with chemical usage. Ecosan, or ecological sanitation, is an innovative approach that focuses on safely managing human waste in an environmentally friendly way. Essentially, it involves converting solid human excreta into valuable manure, which can then be used to enrich soil and support agriculture. This method not only helps reduce pollution and water usage, but also promotes sustainability by recycling nutrients. Throughout this presentation, we've been emphasizing sustainable solutions, and Ecosan fits perfectly into that theme by turning waste into a resource. It's a practical, eco-conscious strategy that can improve sanitation while also benefiting the environment and communities. Let's take a closer look at e-waste. E-waste mainly includes the irreparable components of electronic gadgets, which means parts that can no longer be repaired or reused. These are often discarded devices like old smartphones, computers, and appliances that have outlived their usefulness. The key point here is that e-waste is not just trash, but it contains valuable materials and potentially hazardous substances. Proper management of e-waste is crucial because improper disposal can lead to environmental pollution and health risks. This ties into our overall theme of sustainable technology and responsible consumption. By understanding what constitutes e-waste and its impact, we can better appreciate the importance of recycling and safe disposal practices. When it comes to managing electronic waste, there are several options to consider. Recycling is a key strategy because it helps recover valuable materials and reduces the demand for new raw resources. Incineration, on the other hand, involves burning waste to reduce its volume, but it can release harmful emissions if not properly managed. Burning e-waste in landfills is another practice, though it's less ideal due to environmental concerns and the potential release of toxic substances. Proper disposal of e-waste is crucial to prevent environmental pollution and health risks. It's important to understand these different disposal methods and promote responsible practices to minimize the negative impacts of electronic waste on our planet. Over-irrigation, especially when done without proper drainage, can cause waterlogging of the soil. This means the water saturates the soil, suffocating plant roots and preventing proper air circulation. Additionally, over-irrigation can lead to an increase in the salt content of the soil, which is a serious problem because high salt levels hinder plant growth and can even kill the plants. This issue is particularly relevant in the context of the post-Green Revolution era, where intensive farming practices often cause these kinds of problems. Waterlogging and soil salinity are primarily caused by poor management of the land, especially the topsoil. Fertile topsoil, which takes years to develop, can be easily lost due to human activities. Overcultivation, overgrazing, deforestation, and improper irrigation practices all contribute to the degradation of this vital layer of soil. The excessive use of chemicals can also harm the topsoil's health. When the topsoil deteriorates, the land becomes barren and less capable of supporting healthy plant life. Urbanization further exacerbates this problem, as expanding cities often encroach on arable land, leading to desertification. Desertification is essentially the process where fertile land turns into desert, losing its productivity. So, what we're seeing here is a clear link between improper resource utilization and land degradation. If we don't manage our land and water resources properly, we risk losing valuable topsoil and turning productive land into barren, unusable areas. This highlights the importance of sustainable practices in agriculture and land management to prevent soil erosion, waterlogging, and desertification, core issues that threaten our food security and environmental health. In India, we have the Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award, which is given to individuals or organizations that demonstrate courage and dedication towards protecting our biodiversity. It's a way to honor those who actively work to conserve our natural heritage. There are also various organizations that focus specifically on fighting to save trees. One of the popular movements you might have heard of is the Hug a Tree movement, which aims to raise awareness about the importance of trees and encourage people to protect them. Now let's talk about deforestation, which is a major environmental concern. Deforestation has very harmful effects on our environment. It can lead to desertification, which means land turning into desert and contributes significantly to global warming. It also causes acid rain, pollutes groundwater, and results in the loss of biodiversity in affected areas. There are many efforts underway to conserve our forests, but first, we need to understand what deforestation actually involves. It refers to the cutting down of trees for various reasons, like harvesting wood for furniture, firewood, or paper, or even to make cigarettes. Sometimes, land is cleared to make space for agriculture or for urban expansion. In India, a specific practice called Jai-hum cultivation is also a major contributor to deforestation. It involves shifting cultivation, which, although traditional, can lead to significant forest loss if not managed sustainably. Overall, protecting our forests is crucial because they are vital for maintaining ecological balance, supporting biodiversity, and combating climate change. Now, let's look at some effective ways we can help conserve our precious trees. First, creating awareness about the illegal selling of forest lands to companies and wealthy social groups is crucial. When more people understand how these activities threaten our forests, they can take action or support policies to prevent such practices. Next, forming groups and communities dedicated to fighting against deforestation plays a vital role. Collective efforts often have a much stronger impact than individual actions. By working together, we can push for better conservation measures and hold those responsible accountable. Reforestation is another key strategy. Restoring areas that have been deforested not only helps regenerate ecosystems, but also mitigates climate change. It's a powerful way to reverse some of the damage done. Pressurizing governments to pass laws that protect trees is essential. We need policies that limit deforestation caused by private companies and ensure sustainable practices. Public pressure can motivate policymakers to prioritize environmental conservation. Seeking help from both governmental and non-governmental organizations also makes a big difference. These groups have the resources and expertise to implement and support large-scale conservation projects. Controlling human population growth and urban expansion is another important point. When cities grow unchecked, forests often bear the brunt of the expansion. Sustainable planning can help balance development and conservation. Lastly, simple everyday actions, like avoiding the use of paper for reading books and news, can contribute. Reducing paper consumption decreases the demand that drives deforestation for paper production. Together, these strategies form a comprehensive approach to conserving our forests, ensuring they remain healthy and vibrant for generations to come.